language, these eighth graders.
And which is that?
City Clerk.
Yeah,
This is
that is the one, there's two different approaches, right?
people.
There's,
Does this have to be ready for the record? I guess it does.
Yeah.
This proposal.
so there's really two, right? There's the mayor's proposal, then we have two proposals.
Here, does this have to be ready for the record? This letter?
Carla likes me to read the letter. I don't think it's a letter. You got a letter? That's from,
That's from the
The-
common.
Yeah, we'll just, can we say we'll read them into
received the
the...
communication.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all.
Did everybody receive, everyone received this,
Yes.
yes?
All right.
The question is, do we want to proceed with that tonight? If we've only got 6 of us. Heck, yeah. The one thing I want
We
to
can
do...
discuss it if you want to hold off voting. That's the chair's, prerogative.
I don't think it would be my prerogative.
It's a letter happening
Ask
next
them
month.
not to.
Yeah, just... Okay.
I don't like any of those versions.
Ah, there's Mary. Hi.
And Steve. How are you? Early for the next meeting? We were waiting
Go,
for
wait.
you.
I know.
You didn't see a Tory by any chance, did you, or Mary Crum? So you think I do Diane right after the minutes, right?
Pardon me?
Right after the minutes.
I think it'd be appropriate. Or before the minutes.
Really?
When it's called the order, you could make that after the roll call. Okay, and he does a roll call. That'd be good.
Couldn't print out anything.
No.
Oh, these are extras.
I was here last night.
Did you get the proposals for the changes to the clerks? Did you get a letter from those?
I got a letter.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, why don't we call the meeting to order? We're running a couple minutes late. I apologize for that, but we wanted to be sure that we gave everybody a chance to get here tonight. Would the secretary read the roll, please?
Robert King.
Here.
Mary Cronin. Absent. Diane Cervello.
Here.
Carla Morano.
Here.
Mary Comstock.
Here.
Ed Torian. Paul Swenson. Here. Joan Mead.
Here.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed with the minutes, we have some news that's making most of us sad. Has nothing to do with Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, but Diane Cervello sent us a letter telling us that it is her intention to resign from this commission for the, we think, not significant reason that she's moving to Huntsville, Alabama. So it is, if you've been working on this commission, or if you've been to these meetings, you know how much work and research that she brought to us, especially when we were looking at other cities and things like that. So Diane did a great job working with us on this. She will be here this meeting, and she will be here at the next meeting, and we hope to conclude most of the things that we've been looking at, but one, she will be sorely missed, and two, there's nothing on this agenda to accept her resignation, so I'm not so sure she will be able to make that move when she wants, because if we don't approve it, I'm assuming, isn't that right? If we don't approve it, I don't think you can leave. So, Diane, really, you've done a great job, and you will see it through to the end, because we think we're finishing in the next couple of weeks. But thank you.
It's really been a privilege to serve, and I'll really miss my every other Monday nights, looking for something else to do, and I've really enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with all of you, and unfortunately, I've got another job and got to go where I have to go, so.
Maybe Huntsville will be reviewing their charter when you...
We can just send them the tapes.
That's right.
Their city is 3 times the size of ours, and there's only 5 people on the council. That's shocking to me.
You're out of order, Diane. We're not bringing that up at this point. 5 people, and we thought 7 was small, so anyway. To say that you were a huge part of this is an understatement.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on, could we have the minutes of the last meeting read, please?
The last meeting was Monday, August the 25th. At that meeting, we discussed and accepted the minutes from the August 11th meeting, and we heard input from the public. Lynn Waller spoke in favor of retaining the current number of members to the council. She voiced her support for the continuation of the at-large council members, thought the capping of non-referendum bonding was necessary, and believes that council members should not be compensated as members of no other board or commission or compensated in the city of Danbury. Mr. Al Robinson pointed out that Section 3-3 of the charter provides only the council can appoint an assistant clerk. Mr. Warren Levy expressed concern about compliance with the requirements of the charter and believes the council should have its own independent legal advisor for interpretations of the charter, statutes, regulations, ordinances, and rules. He supports continued minority representation and the current size of 21 members for the council. It is not broken. Mr. Paul Rotella supports the current size of the council at 21 members. If the council were too small, there might be a problem with quorums, and he pointed out that there were certain issues that require a 2/3 majority. He was against term limits and in favor of a 2-year term. He also believed the system worked because Danbury has had good luck with the competency of its mayors. Margaret Mitchell supports the change that provides for the capital plan to be submitted to the council earlier. She was concerned about bonding, and she prefers the town meeting style of government. She pointed out that the budget books are not available to the public in Danbury, and she also stated the current size of the council would not work in practice were it not for the use of the ad hoc committee system. After that portion of the meeting, the council unanimously voted to approve the agenda for that night's meeting. The commission had a discussion about the current size of the council's 21 members and about the advantages of a lesser number of council members. No motion was made to make any change. The commission had discussion with proposed changes to Charter Section 6-9 regarding the police department and unanimously voted to make those changes to Section 6-9. The commission discussed a review of items passed by vote at its earlier meetings and received a packet of copies of the approved changes to the charter. The commission had a discussion about changes to the city clerk's position and reviewed several proposals on different ways to eliminate the office of city clerk and replace those duties with another position. There was review of a proposal from the mayor and there are proposals from Mr. Levy. The commission will discuss the issue of the city clerk's office on this agenda. The commission had a discussion about streamlining the city's organization, which is contained in basically Section 6 of the charter. The commission had a brief discussion regarding the percentage of electors required on a petition to force a referendum. After that, we adjourned.
Okay. Any corrections? No notations to those minutes? It's been a whole year, but we finally have a typo in there where Peter spelled something wrong. Under Paul Rotella, the word two should have 2 O's and not 1, but what a great job you've been doing with the minutes. So the minutes stand as read. We'll now take comments from the public. Would anyone care to address us? Joel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I believe there is an obscure item in the charter that does, if you want your own Charter Revision Commission, you're not allowed to leave town until the work is done.
Thank you very much.
But Huntsville is a nice town, so you're going to a good place. Only 2 quick items. Since I have been the only person from either zoning or planning commission to testify before this hearing, I took a straw poll at the last planning commission. A simple question, unbiased, no intonation put into it. Do you favor combining the planning and zoning commissions? I couldn't back off fast enough from the residents of no. That was absolutely no. There were 3 of the commissioners there. The chairman wanted to come and testify tonight. I don't think he's going to be able to make it, but I just wanted to pass that along. It's just not just my voice in the wind here. I understand you might be reconsidering that, so I would ask you to stay on the course of, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. The last item I'd like to talk about is the initiative for a referendum. I am a big believer in referendum for most any reason, as a matter of fact. I think that people should always be able to bring something to a vote when they are either displeased or want some sort of action taken within their government. In a representative form of government, our representatives are supposed to do those things, but they don't always do what the populace wants, as we all know. So I would like to encourage you that if you're going to discuss this tonight, the amount of registered voters that need to go on the referendum, it needs to be something that's obtainable, either through a limited number of voter signatures on the petition, or an expanded amount of time at least in order to obtain those signatures. There are some things we would probably never satisfy by referendum. One of those would be the budget, because under our law, if a budget is challenged, even if it were challenged under referendum, and if it failed, they voted against the budget, past time by now, mayor's budget becomes budget anyway. It would be just like what happened this year whenever the council failed to pass the budget. The mayor's budget prevailed. So I don't think that's really the key issue. It's more things about going on in the city. But if people, for example, were really adamant about putting a cap on capital spending that doesn't come to referendum, they should be able to bring that to referendum and change that element of the charter if they so desire. But requiring 15% and 30 days to do it, it's all but impossible to do. It's just not feasible in this town. Other than that, I just have to say thank you very much for all the work you put in. If anybody should be compensated, it should be these commissions, because I know from personal experience, we put in a lot more time than common council does. So, anyway, thank you.
Joe, thank you. Any questions?
I'm not proposing that we be compensated.
Yeah, any questions? Joan, did you have your hand?
No.
Okay. Would anyone else from the public care to?
Good evening. Warren Levy, 5 Pelham Drive, Danbury. I hope everybody is happy tonight. Nice weather, not wet. I just want to speak on the issue of the city clerk position. I think I mailed every one of the members the 2 proposals that we submitted from the Democratic caucus. The proposal was submitted by the mayor weakens actually the legislative body, and what we wanted was a staff individual to assist the volunteer common council members. There's the 2 proposals that we submitted. One of them is actually the exact language that was submitted by the mayor's office, with the exception we replaced it with the common council. The other one is one that allows the common council to somewhat guide their own destiny and establish criteria for hiring a staff individual. And it doesn't really put so much weight on the commission itself. It allows the council to determine what they need in the way of assistance. So I support either one of those proposals, but certainly the council needs staff assistance, and that's the biggest thing about the whole proposal. On the other issues, I'm not totally familiar with all of them, but I understand this evening it was brought to my attention. There's one about you had previously eliminated the minority representation on the council. Did I? No?
No.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. Other than that, you're doing a great job, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions? We're good. Thank you. Would anyone else care to address this? Paul?
I'm going to go through several items tonight because I've got the changes proposed and already voted in from Vice Chairman King. To begin with, just speaking about the last meeting where the mayor, or Rick Gottschalk, presented for the mayor the proposed language for the city clerk, and then Councilman Levy and I have given our interpretation of the way that ought to be. I just want to explain why you got 2 different proposals. The one that you got from me, which simply substituted common council for mayor, and we spoke about this briefly a couple of weeks ago, where we feel that the council should be hiring its own staff, essentially. the reason that I gave you a verbatim copy of what was presented to you from Gottschalk is because that language has already been backwards vetted through state statute. So I know you're wrapping this up, and this is not one of those things where it's going to have to go back to Corporation Council for approval to make sure that this is something that's going to jive with the Connecticut state statutes, because the presumption is, since he already gave that to you with nearly identical language it already is, I am also comfortable with either one of them. But what I would not be comfortable with would be the mayor picking our staff. We really need to pick our own staff. Now, I've got some questions for you, and I don't know if this format allows you to answer them, but I'm going to shoot them off to you anyway. On Police Department 6-9, where we have the approval of entry-level candidates, this is a change to, or an addition, or it backtracks to 6-3. I'll read 6-3, when not otherwise provided, all heads and all officers of the foregoing departments, including departments created by the Common Council, and all police and fire officers shall be appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the Common Council. For Police Department 6-9, you've amended it by saying all successful entry-level candidates for the position of police officer shall be recommended for employment by the chief of police and then appointed. Well, this is what you guys gave me. I'll just hand this to you. You've got 2 copies of it. I'm not saying that you voted it. It was in your green book, yeah. And then after the chief has recommended the candidates, then it goes back to 6-3, which essentially says what I just read to you, that the mayor and the council are the ones who actually do that appointing. I don't think that that's necessary. The chief basically is making these recommendations anyway. I'm not sure that you can codify it because it conflicts with 6-3. He can't make those choices. The mayor and the council have to make these ultimate choices, so the language looks a little confusing to me. Since the mayor and the council has to do this, and we're already listening to him, the language is either redundant or at least it's going to be somewhat problematical.
Let's explain the problematical. Mayor?
If I understood the chief correctly, he needed that for when there wasn't room at the police commission, at the police academy. The police academy runs 16 weeks.
Yeah.
And if he needed to hire someone
Here,
and
Paul.
appoint them, he needed to like a,
I've got another one.
he needed to be able to, didn't he say something like that? Wasn't that what he said?
I think we have.
He said when the academy started, if he wanted to offer someone the job and hire them for the job, and then like wait 6 weeks and then send them to the academy, he needed that? I thought that's what he said.
Okay, well, the language in here, and I don't know where you guys are going with your language, but the language, all it says is that the candidate shall be recommended. Not appointed, not hired, not vetted, just recommended by the police. And then it goes back to 6-3, which says that the mayor and the Common Council shall be the ones.
Well, it's recommended, and they're going to be appointed in accordance with 6-3.
In other words, the mayor and the council do the appointing.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
Right. And the chief, already the chief is doing his recommendations,
That's
so is the
correct.
fire chief.
Yes.
So I don't understand why you need to put that language in there, but I
The
just.
more important part of the language was, I believe, the last sentence.
Mr. Chairman, I think if I could refer back to the mayor's letter, there was some confusion between the submission that he made and the chief of police. In a subsequent meeting with the mayor, he had indicated what he put in his memo is really what he wanted, that we were in compliance with state statute.
Right.
And I thought that was the only change we were making.
That was the most substantive, that was the only substantive change.
Well,
that
maybe
that
you
language
could remove
does.
the recommendation part, because it seems to indicate an implied conflict with 6-3, that's all. If he's recommending, you're not doing anything when you're recommending, but if it's more than that and important enough to be in the actual charter, I'm thinking what
Mr. Rotella, if you
recommendation
could
might
read
be.
this right here is what the mayor had submitted, and that's what,
I
in effect,
suggest
is that-
adding language, screen in accordance with the requirement. Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
But that is the last sentence. All such candidates shall be screened in accordance with the requirements of the
Right,
state.
I don't have a problem with the last sentence, it's the recommending by the chief, that was the, I don't really know what that means.
Now, as long as we're working through it, Paul, give us a couple seconds here.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I may be wrong. I thought that he needed a mechanism to offer someone a job. And then when they couldn't start the academy right away, there needed to be some sort of,
I think you're right about that, and what we will do is, Mr. Gottschalk called to tell us that he will not be here until 8 o'clock, so we will check with him. but
I was going to refer these questions to Eric and tell him to jump in at any time, but obviously he's not here, so
Yeah.
we'll have to muddle through, okay?
Okay, we will, yes, Bob?
Point of view,
Yes,
Mr. Gottschalk's gonna be here at 8. If Mr. Rotello is going to continue going through things previously, would it be better to defer that conversation until our legal counsel is here?
It's fine with me, sure.
do you,
I'm sorry to interrupt this colloquy, but we're really here to listen to Mr. Rotello and not engage in question
Got
and
it.
answering with him. And then we can get all out that he wants to tell us. And if we need to visit it, we'll revisit it. No offense to you.
None taken, I mean, it's, you know.
Otherwise, we'll be here for a long time.
go ahead,
Okay.
I'll keep,
Public speaking sessions. This would be the last sentence of section 3.4. This was, according to your notes, voted on the 28th of January. As you know, the Common Council allows a 30-minute public speaking period preceding every meeting. Actually, the meeting kind of starts, there's a few things that happen. Then there's a public speaking comment. It's been limited to 30 minutes since at least the last charter change. And there's been some debate, particularly back in February, when we had a couple of hot button issues, that we should be able to allow an extended period of time should the need arise. There was some implication the charter already allows that through the chair, but we had a ruling from Corporation Council saying that it does not, and that 30 minutes is 30 minutes and that's that. So I guess a request went out to give the chair some flexibility to expand that, which is fine, but you've added something here that we've never had before, and that is remember the original language is that any resident, or I guess it was any resident and taxpayer. There was some confusion with the and in there. Should it be an and or an or? And you changed it to an or, which is fine. But in any event, it was either a citizen who lived in Danbury or a property owner who owned property in Danbury. As you know, Margaret Mitchell is not an actual citizen of Danbury. Her domicile is in Colorado, but she speaks very often. She owns property in Danbury. That's fine. But now you've added the line, the council at each meeting shall reserve the initial 1/2 hour period for the expression of views and opinions by residents or taxpayers of the city or their legal representatives. And that's something that we've never done before. Keep in mind that a lawyer can speak at the council as long as he is or she a resident or property owner of Danbury. So if I was an attorney and someone wanted me to speak for them, I would be legally entitled to do so as long as I either own property, an office building in Danbury, or I lived here. I guess what you're saying with this is that out-of-town, unaffiliated attorneys or legal representatives, which could be, I'd have to defer again to Eric on that. I'm not exactly sure what a legal representative is, because you didn't say attorney, but I assume it could mean someone who's been granted the power of an attorney from out of town can speak to the council during that 30-minute period. I foresee a couple of problems with that. I foresee representatives from major organizations like the NRA or Planned Parenthood or the ACLU or whatever coming into Danbury, speaking for the half-hour period when, from my point of view, this 30 minutes of public comment really should be reserved for citizen activists. We are in the phone book. Any citizen of Danbury or out of towner can call me up or email me or write a letter. We're always available. But that period where you have a platform, I think if it's important enough to actually speak at these meetings, it should be important enough that the citizens themselves are the ones who are allowed to speak. I think that if we move into an area, an adversarial area before the meeting even starts, and we have these people come in with attorneys from Colorado or Texas or New York State, I think we're asking for trouble. So it looks like you voted on this already. I would ask you to revise that language and remove.
Good point. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gifts of $1,000 or less. It has been a privilege on the council for many, many years to accept donations. I would like to see that continue. You've changed that and you've taken it away from the council and given it exclusively to the mayor. Statement of cases. This is another thing that the council is very involved with, lawsuits. If there's been a problem, whether it's a property acquisition by eminent domain or a lawsuit, often we will go into executive session and discuss these settlement items with the city's own attorneys and attorneys that have been hired specifically for these cases. You have removed that from the council and given it exclusively to the administration. I don't know why you did that. I would like to see that removed. You voted that January 28th.
Okay. Paul, just so you understand, part of these were brought up in order to lessen the agenda that the council dealt with. If there's a $25 book donated to the library, the fact is it would take an act of the council to accept it, and that
It's
creates...
such a small, it's such a great small town thing. It really is.
Okay.
You know.
And the same thing with the settlement of things
We do
covered
these-
by insurance.
I don't think we do these once a quarter. And it allows the council to really keep an eye on the lawsuits in Danbury. I think that's extremely important for the 21 representatives to keep an eye on these things. The last time we had executive session, I think, was for the airport acquisition property, which was in February, March, and the time before that was last fall. So we've had one this year, and I believe one last year. And that's about right. We might have one or two. But these often are extremely important, and they can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions. We're facing a continuing suit on an item that occurred 20 years ago that's been as yet unresolved, and if it goes the wrong way, it could cost in the millions, 10, 15 million. We hope that it doesn't, but it's something that the council has to revisit on a yearly basis to stay up to date with that, and I think it's important that we continue to do so.
There is a reporting requirement in that clause, though, you understand?
Right, but this is
Okay.
a voting requirement, and that's what we've always had.
Okay, next.
Okay, Councilman Levy brought this up, delete the words legislative body in Charter Section 2.3. This is under minority representation. If that didn't mean council, I'm not sure what it would mean. This is Charter Corrections Revised, and it is Section 2. And that was voted in
Give me the
225. I don't have a page number.
225, 2A.
That was that long list of things, Paul.
Yeah.
Yep.
The commission voted to recommend a revision to Charter Section 2-3 dealing with minority representation. Yeah.
See, I think that really does mean the common council. I think what you've done is you've removed minority representation from the council. Now, if you wanted to do that, I'll have an argument with you, but if you didn't want to do that, I think you ought to be aware of this, because it looks like you did, and I could be wrong on that.
I think we just removed it because it was covered in another section of
Okay.
the charter.
All right, that's fine. But you might want to check on that to make sure.
Actually, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Peter?
It is covered in another section.
Okay.
It is.
That's fine.
Council.
And I think, guys, that's it.
Okay.
And let me thank you all for the work that you've put in on this job. I know it hasn't been easy, it's been complicated, and the language can be conflicting at times, and I certainly appreciate, I can't speak for the council, but I kind of am. I think we all appreciate the work you've put into this. Finally, if you could discuss your schedule, the next meeting, I think, is your last one, and then you're going to a public hearing, is that how it's going to work? And my presumption is you're not going to make the vote for November. I think that's correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You're not going to be in front of, right.
No, that's right.
It will not be
We're
before
not
the
in any
vote.
schedule to
Exactly.
make the election.
So we're looking at either next November or a referendum between
That's correct.
sometime
Yes.
next year, correct?
Yeah.
So it's off the agenda for November.
It's off
Yes.
the-
It's off,
the ballot.
right, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
the original timing was, we were hoping to finish by December. We're going to come in a little quicker than
Okay.
that, but not in time for this election.
All right, thanks.
We don't think you guys would have the time to act on
We've been trying to figure out how we could do this with public hearings and really quick ad hocs and everything else to get it on, and it just didn't look like it would give anybody enough time to go through
No.
the material.
At
I mean,
the outset-
it could be done, but it didn't
Right.
seem to be
But
fair.
there were no emergencies at the outset of this. The intention was finish it by the end of this year, present it to the council early next year. It'll
That's
have
fine.
plenty of time
That's
for
totally
'09, and we weren't trying to get in under the.
If we had to, we could, but it just doesn't seem like it's necessary, so we can go another 6 months or a year or 3 months. Remember, if we have a referendum, it's gonna cost us like 20 grand, so
Yeah.
we might wanna roll it into the next actual schedule.
We're not going another 6 months, Paul.
No, I don't mean you guys, I don't mean you guys. Once it's settled, we just gotta get it to the voters and
No,
then.
we understand.
Okay, that's it for me, if anybody wants to ask me anything.
Okay, thank you. And Paul, if you're still here when Mr. Gottschalk gets in, we may engage him in this, just so
Thanks a
that
lot.
we make sure we understand what we think we've done. Any other members would like to discuss? I'm going to hold your last one if I can.
Howard Robinson, 182 Osborne Street. I want to speak on the city clerk position again. I looked at the mayor's proposal, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing here, in which the mayor, whoever it is, the mayor is, can appoint or remove somebody who's supposed to be working for the legislative body or common council. I don't see how it makes much sense that somebody in the executive branch of government can be appointing people who work for the legislative branch of government. I think the common council should have say so and what type of staff they need, people who know what type of staff they need to be able to hire or the staff that they need. In second of all, I just want to read this editorial I found from the News Times from June 1987. It was regarding the Charter Revision Commission, and I'm going to read the portion here that is relevant to what I'm saying. If the common council members were serious about the need for a staff, they would suggest eliminating the city clerk's job as an elected position. The clerk is supposed to be a functionary of the council, but as an elected official is traditionally loyal to the mayor. In the place of the city clerk, an administrative aide's position could be created that would be under civil service to ensure professionalism, but responsible to the council, not the mayor. And this was from 21 years ago. We're still talking about this today. This is serious business here. And I think that the city clerk's position should be eliminated and put in its place a position that was under civil service. Not somebody that can be appointed by the mayor, but it's a civil service position. There are other similar positions here in the city of Danbury that's being done. Planning and zoning, I think Joanne Reed is the person down there. She does a similar job as a city clerk. I don't think we need to be paying off $48,000 to $50,000 for a position of city clerk, where there's so many problems that, I wish I can get $48,000 to $50,000 to come in here, basically, in my opinion, at a part-time basis, and maybe do weddings on the side. So I just think you guys should take that seriously, and I hope you're taking this situation seriously. Second of all, I think that it would be somewhat informative if you guys would, request that the majority and the minority leader of the Common Council come before you and talk about some issues that they have with the charter. I haven't seen Tom Soddy or Greg Seabury approach you guys yet and talk about issues that they have. And I think it'd be somewhat informative to hear from them. I know you heard from people on planning, some other elected officials, but the people on the Common Council, especially the minority leader, have raised concerns about things that have been troublesome in terms of the charter. I think it would be good to hear their
Hold on a
point.
minute, excuse me for a minute. Okay.
And I think since you are winding things up, I think it would be somewhat informative and educational for you guys to hear from, especially the minority leader, and listen to what he has to say, because I know he should have some things to say about this charter. So that's it. Thank you for everything you guys are doing. I know this is pretty rough, and I'm happy you guys are winding things up. I just want to give you a copy of this
Great.
for your records.
Thank you very much. Pass that down to our secretary.
wanted to be last.
No,
so-
that's fine. We'll take Lynn. No,
It's
Lynn,
okay.
that's,
I didn't realize you
you're
wanted to
fine,
speak.
Lynn.
Okay. I wanted to again bring up about the numbers of petition signers for a referendum. I personally have collected petitions. In Danbury, there's a lot of places that you are not allowed to stand to get collection of signatures. Most grocery stores won't allow you. I found all of mine at the city dump or at the recycle center. Because Mr. Galanti used to own it, I don't know that you'd be allowed to go there and collect signatures, but that's where you find city residents. Otherwise, you may get signatures on there that are not. 5% of the 30,000, I believe, that are registered voters is 1,500 signatures. 3% is 900. It is a massive number when you want to do something to get that many signatures. Ask anyone who wants to get on a ticket to even collect 25. It's awkward for them to do that. So trying to go down to 3%, I think, is a reasonable number to force an issue. And as was said earlier, it's not going to be for the budget, but it could be for some of the ordinances that pass that the public really is upset with. So I'm hoping you seriously consider that. If you do make the changes to the city clerk's position and make it a legislative office position or clerk or whatever you're calling them, I'd like you to see if there's any way, because it's no longer an elected office, that the office itself remains open the same hours that the city is open. I know you can't say anything to an elected official, but if it's a city that's appointing, I think the person needs to be there because that's where all the documentation for the city is. And every time you go to a council meeting, they say, we don't want to read this because all the members have copies, and copies are on file in the city clerk's office for the public to see. If they're not open, you can't see them. So I would like to see it maintained at the same level that the rest of City Hall is, so when the public comes in, they could see them. And one of the things that bothered me a long time ago when I was reading through this, the public improvement assessments. I'm really concerned where it says, and this is one of your already approved ones, 7-8, I believe it is. It says all costs of public works or improvements that confer special benefits on an identifiable group of residents or taxpayers of the city shall be borne by those properties that benefit from the projects. If you repave roads or you widen roads and it benefits any resident that lives on the road, are they going to be asked to pay for it? I know if you run a new sewer up someone's road, they have to pay. But this makes it sound like it could be for roads or any improvement made to your road. They might be able to pull this and say, we're going to charge the residents for all this stuff. And we can't afford what we're paying for today. So I wanted to bring it up because it bothered me since you all accepted it, and I keep forgetting to mention it. But I read back through everything that you were talking about, so I thought I'd bring it up today. 7-8, and it's 7148C2G in the charter, and you accepted it on 12808.
Yes, yep.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, I thank you too for all your work, and especially Diane, thank you. I know you did a lot of homework in the beginning. I wish you well in your new job, but I'm sorry you're taking Richie away from us at the senior center.
Questions for Mrs. Wall? Yes.
Hi, I'm Mary Teschelt, 6 Shannon Ridge Road. I am on the county council. I know you've already covered these. I have been watching. I've been here a couple times, and I just wanted to say that I think the council number, initially I did think it could be lower. The more I listened to your deliberations and everything and other public comment, I have come to the conclusion that I really think 21 does work for us, and it works well. And someone had made the comment, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, we seem to it gives us a lot of occasion to speak. Different opinions coming to us. And I also wanted to discuss the term of the council, and I know that's also been discussed, and I think a 4-year term would be good, and I'll tell you why. Because a 4-year term, for us to run for election is very expensive. It's expensive on each one of the candidates. And if there was a 4-year term, we would afford more people the opportunity to run for these spaces on the council, which I think we should kind of do that. You could give people more time to save up the money to run. It's a venture. And also gives us a little more time to free us up, not to be campaigning, but to be working and working for our constituency instead of having to always be concerned with walking or this. It's quite difficult every 2 years to run. And then my final one is about, I guess, clerk of the council, as it may be being known. My main concern about that is just that we have a continuity for the council. Having it an elected position concerns me because we've already seen the council flip. From, you flip and you have brand new people. That's a concern. We need someone who knows the history. Very often things come before us that have a history. Be great to have someone who's been there year after year and can help a new council through those tribulations when the elections come up. And that was all I would like to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the commissioners? Then, shall we move to the agenda? First item on the agenda is the commission shall discuss the position of city clerk. And if I could, I would bring your attention to 2 proposals that were mailed to you by members of the council and a proposal from the mayor's office. Any questions on any of that at this point from anybody?
Carlo, just on that, we had a little discussion towards the end of our last meeting, and I don't think we formalized it, but I know I'm of the opinion that having the current city clerk as it exists now, an elective office, I'm in favor of eliminating that the way it's formulated right now. Before we decide on what to build or replace it, I just think it would make more sense to just find out if we're all in agreement that it has to be changed, or we all believe that.
I thought we determined that last time, that it
I
was a
think it was a
consensus.
consensus.
Was a consensus that,
Okay.
that it not be an elected position, is my recollection.
So let- if we have come to the conclusion as a commission that this is not an elected position,
We could vote on it.
then the next question becomes, and we can vote on that and just eliminate the position, but the next question is, what do we make this position look like? And should we be making that determination? So I'll hear your discussions around that, and again, you've got 2 proposals in front of you, and if I can lead this a little bit, one thing we
Sean's
could...
right, yeah, 3.
I'm sorry, 3 proposals, I wasn't that good in math. We have 3 proposals.
That's a worrisome.
1 plus 2 is 2. We have 3 proposals in front of us. We do have a 4th position that we could take. We could simply eliminate the position and leave it up to the mayor and the legislative body to sort this out. And, they're the people that access this individual. I will tell you, in discussions with the mayor, and I hope I'm not going out of line as chairman, but in discussions with the mayor, he says the city clerk works for the mayor. That he's in her office all the time, she's in his office, getting things on the agenda, making sure all the right handouts are put together and things. He feels that that is an administrative staff position, not per se a legislative staff position. We're in the position that we can either define it, maybe get it right or get it wrong, or we can simply eliminate the position and pass it to the mayor and the council to work out how they want to go about doing this without it being defined in the charter. So I would leave that as a 4th possible position.
So are you suggesting that what we could do is first take a vote whether it should be an elected position or not? And then secondly, we could take a vote that we simply eliminate the wording from the charter and let that be determined by the mayor and the common
And
council.
assuming that's approved, then the council and the mayor would have to get together and determine how they're going to fund and staff that position or positions.
Because arguably, the mayor could have his own staff person, sort of a legislative liaison, if you want to call it that. And the council could hire their own staff person.
But
or
it doesn't
persons.
have to be in the charter.
Right, yeah, correct. My point is, we're not talking about, just because we're eliminating one position doesn't mean it can't result in two bodies filling it, either in the charter or not. And again, I'm not suggesting it one way or the other, just
You know, I
looking
think,
at it as an option.
would it be possible that the commission recommend in the cover letter that the position not be eliminated, but be filled in some other manner, other than a charter position? Doesn't have to be a charter position. It's an administrative position, correct, Paul? Is that your thought?
No, yeah, if we determine that it's not an elected position, then there's a void, a potential void, that either we can fill as part of the charter, or we can leave, I guess, what the chairman's saying is we can leave that to the legislative body in the mayor's office. But I was just making the observation that that could be two different persons.
That's
If the mayor really thinks that is
where I'm making a
a
comment.
mayoral staff position, so be it, he could hire his own,
Yeah.
and so too the legislative, the common council could do the same thing. Whether it should be part of the charter,
And then how would we force those two people to work together?
if that's, yeah, I don't even know.
That's their
if that's-
problem.
The two of them?
Yeah.
How would you do that?
Yeah.
Give it to them, let them run it.
Let
And
the
I'd
adult,
just like to say one other thing
Yes.
about the common council wants to hire their own staff. They want that person to be a civil service job, join a union. Ultimately, that person's boss is the mayor.
correct.
You're never gonna get out of that person answering to the mayor.
Not
If they're a
necessarily.
city
It could
employee.
report to the president of the common council, Mary.
I don't think the
But it-
language proposed by the Democratic caucus said that it would be a civil service position. I think that the mayor's.
And it doesn't have to be a civil
language said
service
that.
position.
I just don't know how you get around that person working in this building and for the city of Danbury and not answering to the boss.
As a professional.
Not answering to the boss.
That
It
is,
would be problematic.
that question's been raised, and we've been told that would be,
Especially since the mayor presides over the common council meetings in addition,
yeah.
so.
It just seems awkward.
It's,
Well, perhaps we're
Yeah.
going about this a little backwards. I mean, why don't we look at what the duties of the clerk are? I mean, what are we eliminate the city clerk as a charter position determined by the charter and elected. And there are certain duties, and they might be sort of minimal duties, and most of us, I think we agree, they're administrative duties. They have to do with somebody being responsible to make a publication, to distribute minutes, and keep records. And these are like essential to the operation of a democracy. And those duties are going to exist as long as we are a democracy, and we need to assign those to somebody, or some office, if they're not going to be assigned to anybody. So, I don't know how to, I think that's what we should focus on. Where are those duties? Where's the best place for those duties to exist? I mean, who's going to be responsible? I think a recurring issue brought up by at least the people who've come to address us is they would like these records of the council, the minutes, the submissions to the council, to be accessible. And to me, that means, somebody like in the town clerk's office, someplace where you can go, where you know the office is going to be open, and you can get a handle and take a look at this stuff. So in a certain sense, yes, they're going to be city employees. In a certain sense, they're all going to fall under the purview of the mayor, but their immediate supervisor may not be in the mayor's office, so to speak.
if you want to read it, it's in section 3-3 of the charter. I would again raise the question, should we be the ones that are defining how this operates? My feeling is the simple solution is we eliminate it as an elected office. Now it does not have to exist as an elected office, and it'll be incumbent on the council and the mayor to hash out how it is they are going to manage this going forward. So we throw it back to the people who have to work with these people and let them work it out. It provides flexibility in that it is no longer in the charter. If we put something in the charter and 10 years from now it doesn't work, well, if it's in here, that position is just an outmoded position that still stays here. So I I like the simplicity approach, which is we eliminate it as an elected position, and which means, I think, that we would probably eliminate all of section 3-3, which also then would say we would eliminate the council may at any time appoint an assistant clerk or clerks. And then I'm assuming the council could take a vote to give
Pass an
themselves, pass an ordinance so that they would hire the type of staff that they would want or need. Joan, you were pointing to something?
Yeah, it's not only there, but
Right.
in both of these, it tells you every section in the letter, every section where that would have to be eliminated.
Right.
The
I
reference
think
to
we
city
will
clerk.
have to revise the section that deals with, at the expiration of the 2009 term, so that we could phase it out. There was some language in 2-2AD
Mhm.
that we would need to keep in.
2-2, is that because of the timing issue? The city clerk shall serve a term of 2 years and shall have the powers and duties prescribed in 3-3.
And so we
Is
would have
that-
to add that upon expiration of the 2009 term of office, the legislative clerk shall cease to be an elective office, and therefore the position shall be filled in accordance with the provisions. So we'd have to revise that, but
Because 3.3
Right.
wouldn't exist.
Well, I think
We would take that up with
this-
Mr.
Right,
Gottschalk, obviously.
exactly. How to handle.
Peter, through the chair.
Yes.
It's important, what you said is important because the wheels of democracy have to still spin, still have to, my point is, suppose we took the word out of, if you look at the first sentence of 3-3, but you eliminate the first sentence, you eliminate city clerk, and you say, the city shall keep for public inspection copies of every proposed ordinance. Do you think we have to, in the charter, make sure that those duties are still, those responsibilities are still fulfilled?
I think so. I mean, it makes sense to me that there'd be a place, a designated office or a designated place to keep the records of the council and a designated office to be responsible for publication. I mean, any ordinance that the city passes requires publication and requires certain things. And somebody's got to be held responsible for that.
But isn't that by statute, that requirement?
No,
It's not by state statute?
certain things are, but not all ordinances are by state statute. They're by requirements of city charter. Certain ones that have penalty are required by state statute.
The simplicity of the chairman's suggestion is, the only thing it doesn't address is that piece. Well, who is going to be responsible so that if a citizen wants to see the ordinances or any of them, who's going to be, if we left it out of the charter, if we left the duties in and didn't designate an office, would that fall by way to the mayor's office?
That would be open to interpretation, probably.
It probably would.
And we're in the same situation we are now.
Well, I think it would be open to an ordinance. So, you'd look at that, who'd pass an ordinance? Well, you'd need a majority of the council, it'd have to be, signed or vetoed by the mayor.
So then the chairman's idea then would kick it.
So if I can just understand you, in effect, if we kept the language, eliminate the word clerk, the
Right.
city shall keep for public inspection copies of proposed ordinances, so that we're still saying in 3-3 that the city is doing it, we're not specifying
Yeah,
how the city's doing it. And it would require some ordinance on behalf of the council and the mayor in order to implement it.
because, at the end, I think we should probably put some open full-time or something, But I gotta tell you, it does beg the question what Commissioner Bezay says, to not have someone responsible, to not have an office responsible.
If you think about it, it's been suggested in discussion that this would be in the purview of, you could assign the corporation counsel's office to keep these records. I mean, that sort of makes a lot of sense. They're highly involved with the agenda of the city council and the records of the city council. some other place that's open all the time, that has records, where all, in fact, our minutes are, is the town clerk's office, as a receptacle of the records. It just, that's the only way I look at that. I mean, somebody's gotta be responsible for this.
But then the question is, if we don't put something in the charter, then it's just anybody's ballgame as to who's in charge?
No, I believe that at that point, if there is nothing in the charter, at that point, it would have to be done by ordinance. And then you designate, if it's gonna be done by ordinance, it's gonna require a majority of the council and the mayor.
But then does that language go into the charter or not?
No?
No, it would be
an ordinance.
Which means if it needs to be changed, the council can change it at a later date. So if our minutes are held by the town clerk?
Our minutes and our agendas and our records are filed with the town clerk, as are just about every other board and commission,
But
other than the city council. The
And that's
council
got-
is with the city.
And our minutes are held there by ordinance, not by charter.
No, our minutes are held there by the Freedom of Information law.
And wouldn't that then apply to the city council?
It probably would, because there's no other designation. I
Right.
mean, in our present case, the city clerk holds those records because it's designated as the receptacle of all those records by the city charter.
Right.
So
So,
it'd probably be in the city, it'd be in the town clerk's office.
So you're suggesting the town clerk
That bothers me, so
be
probably.
responsible?
well, we're gonna need
Yep.
to, we will need to confirm that. But again, the way we've worked is we've worked out what we think's the right idea. Mr. Gottschalk typically makes it legal and puts it in the proper language, and then comes back for us to pass it, to finally approve it. Any other questions or comments?
I was just looking at the description of the town clerk, and it says, the town clerk shall have all the powers and.
2-7.
2-8.
That was so close.
Get something. Prescribed by general statutes, this charter, and such other powers and duties as may be prescribed by the council. So the town clerk probably could do those duties, as far as making public notices and things like that.
Any other questions or comments?
My only other comment about that is, I don't think there's any precedent for anybody from the town clerk's office being involved in preparing agendas or disseminating information or attending any board or commission meeting. I mean, other than their involvement with elections. That office doesn't have that purview. It's a great place to go to get information. I mean, they're very good at responding to the public. I mean, everybody knows where it is. They can go in there and you can get copies of just about anything. So it makes a lot of sense for that aspect of the job. It doesn't seem to make much sense to locate a person who's going to be responsible for printing or disseminating an agenda, or who's going to attend council meetings.
When Mrs. Natali was here, she talked about how much work was involved in putting agendas together and binding them, and all the last-minute things that need to go in. There is no question there is a requirement for a position or more that simply puts together the agenda and keeps track of it for the council. The question is, should we as a commission determine who that is and to whom they report, or do we simply pull it out because we think it shouldn't be an elected position, and then let the legislative body and the mayor work out who is responsible for them, who hires them, and to whom they report? Shall we hold this off until Mr. Gottschalk gets here to ask him those questions about FOI and those issues?
We can ask him those questions. I mean, he's the legal advisor of our commission. But I think this, I mean, in our process, whatever we decide, it's going to go before the council anyway. And they're going to have to go up and down on this provision as well. So this isn't going to be the first time this little debate is going to be had.
Okay.
No matter what we decide.
Peter, you brought up a point about this falling under the purview of the corporate counsel's office. To me, that makes a lot of sense, since they do supply legal advice to the council, albeit some folks would like to see, at a different level. But one of the points that keeps coming out is the independence of this person. I've always felt that would be a good place to put it, because it would provide some independence as opposed to reporting directly to the mayor or to the common council. I understand both sides have suggested that that's not the proper place for it. Do you have an opinion about that?
Do I have an opinion about that?
You brought up about legal counsel,
I mean,
with the responsibility
I
or the
think
duties.
that, I can only think of two, if we eliminate the city clerk's office, is in terms of existing places where that person could be lodged, in my mind, would be either the town clerk's office or the corporation counsel's office. I mean, I don't think I have a problem. I mean, if the corporation counsel is gonna have an additional person working there whose sole duty is to take care of council
Perform these
business,
responsibilities.
I don't personally have a problem with that.
I have a question.
Paul?
I've always liked proposal number 1 since I've read it, because it gives, which is, the common council shall choose, will appoint its own legislative staff, whether professionals, etc. Is there anything that prevents the common council from doing this? Because it's not in the charter, does that mean they can't do it anyways? I mean, why couldn't they just, by ordinance, go out and do this? Hire a staff. Can they do that?
Well, you have 6-3, which gives the power of appointment to the mayor. And that's the difference when it comes to assistant city clerks. That's the only position appointed by the common council. And so if you want to just leave things as they are, then an ordinance is going to butt up against 6-3.
What is no officers for? I see, okay.
So all employees of the city, except those appointed by the common council pursuant to section 3-3, shall be appointed by the mayor. That's fixable. Thank you for coming, Mr. Gottschalk. We have some questions for
I
you.
apologize
That's,
for double booking it.
we have learned why you're so vital to this organization since you haven't been here for about an hour. If I could bring you up to speed, we were talking about the office of the city clerk. We have a consensus that it should not be an elected position. And please, if I'm misspeaking, let me know that. We have 3 proposals in front of us, 1 by the mayor and 2 by members of the common council, and a 4th proposal from the chairman who says, why don't we just eliminate section 3-3 and let the mayor and the common council work out how they would staff this position. And I think we got to the point that Paul kind of got us to, which is, and Peter, where they said, you know what, there's a lot of duties listed in 3-3. If, including public inspection of records and things like that, if we were to do the simple thing and eliminate 3-3, does FOI require the public inspection of records and things like that? Where do the duties in 3-3 then fall if we were to simply eliminate it?
Well, the Freedom of Information Act clearly gives the public the right to inspect and copy public records and to attend public meetings. So that function, by whomever it's performed, is going to be required. It's a necessary component of the business we do.
So currently, the town clerk does much of that.
Yes.
The city clerk, because of the charter, does it for the council.
Right. You know, publication of notices of hearing, publication of ordinances, you know, those are responsibilities that could be assigned to somebody.
Somewhere else. But the actual, the major work of that, of the city clerk's office was putting together the agendas, which I think is a significant time commitment.
Yes.
So that if we eliminated this position, someone still has to do that.
Without a doubt.
Okay. And according to this charter, only the mayor can appoint employees. So does that mean without some other change, the council couldn't possibly hire their own person? Or if they passed an ordinance and the mayor agreed to it, could they hire someone to be the
My sense is
statute?
that the possibility would exist that such an ordinance would contradict the provisions of 6.3. So unless you're comfortable with the mayor appointing all positions, including assistant city clerks, I think you get something.
Say that again, please.
Unless you're comfortable with the mayor appointing an assistant city clerk, you have to do something, because that's the default position in 6.3.
Yeah. Okay, so do you understand what we're up against?
Yeah, I understand that.
In 3.3, it says the council can
Hold on,
appoint.
hold on, he's changing it.
Oh, I was just thinking out loud.
Both think more silently.
Doing an impersonation of my wife will not endear you to me.
He just compare me with his wife.
Oh,
That poor
Christine is
woman.
gonna be
Your
thrilled.
That poor woman.
It's clear that you've been having much more fun than I have.
Let's see. Okay, commissioners, so here's where we are. We've kind of agreed we're gonna eliminate the election of city clerk. If we simply take it out, we take out language giving the council the ability to hire their own assistant clerks, by whatever name that would be. So maybe we want to leave that in section 3-3. The question is, does the charter want to address who hires the legislative clerk? And who does that person report to? Or does this new charter commission want to be silent on that issue?
Well, can we revise section 6-3?
We're going to say to the mayor that he is no longer the only person that can hire employees in the city.
Except those appointed by the common council, and instead of saying pursuant to section 3-3, say, as legislative clerks or something.
So we could amend section 6-3 that would give the council the ability to do that. Who do we want to hire this person? Mary?
I would like to say that if we do that, we've already established that our form of government is strong mayor. So why would we take something away from them? Right. I like what Rick brought us on the 25th when he said that the mayor shall appoint, and that person would only get the job if the majority of the council approved. So we're not taking anything away from the mayor, but we're giving the common council kind of a,
In speaking for council members, I think many of them feel that that is giving the mayor even greater strength. And I'm not so sure that they would be 100% behind that.
I think that, maybe Rick has pointed us in the right direction. If you take step one, this is no longer an elected position, then it's a position that must be filled by being hired by somebody. The charter already says who that somebody is. It's the mayor.
Okay.
Correct?
and then what Rick brought us last time we were here was that the common council also had, that it must be approved by 2/3 of that person.
Which is consistent with 6-3. It says the common council
This was the
would
mayor's.
approve it.
This was the.
So it is consistent with 6-3.
So
I
this
think.
takes you back to the mayor's proposal
Confirmed.
of the three proposals.
But this proposal doesn't say approved, it says
Yeah,
disapproved
we crossed
by
that out last
2/3.
time.
Which one are you talking about?
Well,
The
that's-
one submitted by the common council
The
members?
mayor's proposal.
Right, we changed.
Yeah, yeah.
That the
Must be
appointment may
approved.
be disapproved, but we were gonna change that and say, and must be approved by 2/3.
Do we need to do it by 2/3, or can we do it by simple majority?
What does 6.3 say? You know, if we go on to
And
6.3.
Nothing.
What happens if they can't get a
Confirmed
two-thirds?
by the common council. What is the normal rule with that when confirmed by the common council?
The normal
6-3.
vote is a two-thirds, is a majority vote.
Is a majority vote.
The two-thirds vote only comes into play with special positions. Department heads who, it was thought by previous charter revision commissions, ought to be playing the kind of role that would be very supportive of the mayor. And so it would take a special effort by the common council to reject them. Corporation counsel, director of finance, director of public works, those kinds of positions that have an element of politics to them, if you will. They're advocates for the mayor. And so it doesn't follow the typical, the traditional approach, which is the mayor shall appoint and the common council shall confirm a fill in the blank.
So if we were to, this says two-thirds of the common council in the mayor's proposal. If we change the language to approve by, in effect, two-thirds of the entire membership of the common council, that would be the special type of event that you're talking about.
It's a little bit of a different formulation. It's not simply confirmation, it's confirmation by two-thirds, which would make it more difficult for the mayor to get the person he wants, he or she wants. So you've gone from one extreme, which is two-thirds vote to reject, to the other, which is two-thirds vote to approve. And the middle ground is the mayor shall appoint, the council shall confirm, and saying nothing more, that means by majority vote.
Mary?
Don't you think that by leaving it, it must be approved by two-thirds, doesn't it level the playing field for the common council? And that's really what they want. They want a level playing field, they want a say in who gets the job, and more than just, okay, you brought us 3 people and we'll pick that one. You know, I think they want more of a say. Who gets the job?
I don't know. I think that's a call for you to make. For my money, a level playing field is you require a majority vote for confirmation of a proposed appointment.
Could you have gridlock with the two-thirds? The mayor brings up somebody, cannot get two-thirds vote, brings up somebody else, cannot get two-thirds vote. You then don't have someone who's performing these functions. Is that a concern?
But the common council has a say in who gets hired. And that's ultimately what they want.
Yeah, I just think we have to have some sort of process built into it. And it'd be easy to say, oh yeah, here, let them make up their mind, let them do it. This person's gonna work for them anyway, and just, like your last choice was, just throw it up. That'd be an easy choice for anybody. Here, you do it. It's your people, you do it. But then what happens every time leadership changes? And you're gonna have whoever's in there wanting to figure out, well, let me see, how am I gonna get somebody to take this spot? So I think something like this where the process is good. I'm not quite sure about that two-thirds piece.
If we create this department, where in fact it falls like any other department, where the mayor with the confirmation of the common council hires the individual and presumably dismisses it with cause. The question then is, to whom does this department report to? And what we're hearing is this requirement for independence. We're hearing it from the mayor, we're hearing it from the legislature. And that's what I've been trying to grapple with for weeks, as to what is the right way. I've thought about having 2 direct reports, and it's not unusual in corporate America to have an individual report both to their functionality and to the people whom they work for. I don't know if that makes sense to build in something like that, where you have 2 direct reports, be responsible to 2 people, one to the mayor and one to the president of the common council. Would that settle this question of independence, which seems to be a big stumbling block?
I didn't get the feeling that either group was looking for somebody independent. I got the feeling the mayor wanted his person, the council wants their people, and never the twain shall meet. And I would like to come up with something that's in between both of them.
I think that's what we're trying to reach for.
But I don't
But-
think having,
But I heard the word independence in some of this, in some of the testimony before us.
they may have said it, but that's not what any of this stuff.
I agree.
Is
What we
looking
have
for.
before us, we have, I want this person, or I want this person.
Right.
And both are justified, by the way. You know, I can understand that. But as any other resource in City Hall, it seems like, you know, take the corporate council's area. They report to the mayor and they also work for the legislature. I don't know, I can't understand why this position is so difficult. I really can't. And I even asked our legal counsel, what am I missing? Because I feel I gotta be missing something. Are we dealing with political football? Or is this individual so important that they be independent, that control of this particular job controls the legislature? You know, and I don't believe that. Help. Can you help me?
Diane?
It just seems to me that everyone's vision of what the job functions are, the council versus the mayor, it's two different, completely different positions. One is sort of someone that helps the common council, and the other is a civil servant that makes public records available. So I think that there's just different expectations of what the duties are, depending upon which side you're looking at it.
I'm not sure of that, Diane. I think 90% of the responsibilities both groups are in agreement on. It's this 10% that we're dealing with that, and I don't know if it's a control mechanism or what. I just can't get my head around it. I truly can't.
Mary?
Yes, Mary.
Can I
She's gonna
say,
straighten me out.
no, I'd like to say one more thing. We really need to work this so that it works for the public. And the public wants the mayor and the common council to work together.
Right.
And they don't care, whose favorite person, they don't like them, this one doesn't work for me. The public needs to know that they worked together and picked one person that they both liked, because that person is gonna work for the public. Also, it's the person you wanna go to, right? So on this one issue, we should force them to work together.
And we force them by doing
Tell them the mayor can find somebody,
the mayor's proposal,
but that person's only getting the job if the common council approves by
2/3.
or majority, whatever.
Well, is there consensus on that? So far, we are eliminating the position as an elected position.
Yep.
The next question is, does the mayor appoint the person? And then, or does the council? And if the mayor appoints, is it majority or 2/3 approval? Do we have one mind on that, or not yet? Do you want more time to think about it? Do you want more input from the public before we? I mean, we can wait till next meeting if you want to bring it to a vote.
I think what Commissioner Mary Comstock had indicated is we can go to 6-3, and that's our guide.
Okay.
Correct, Mary?
Actually, no, Bob.
Does this supersede 6-3?
No, it's appointed by the mayor with confirmation by the common council.
Okay.
Or, if you want to put in the word approved by common council by a supermajority, then, I have no problem with that. I think if we move in that direction, then it still begs the question, to whom does this individual report? Correct?
Where do we want it?
Correct.
When he says it like that, it makes me think that we should leave it as an elected position.
Yeah, but I mean,
Say it
that
like,
was
when you say it like
comment to me
that,
also.
that's
I
what,
don't think that's.
who does that person report to?
But the elected position doesn't report to anybody.
Right.
That's the issue today.
But every 2 years, that person has to be voted in, so ultimately.
So
There's
that
the
position
independent.
reports to the
Must be changed to 4.
This should go back to the
But therein, we get back to the problems we have currently.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we know one thing. because of the politics over years, there has been some dysfunction in that office. Not currently necessarily, but over the years, there's been politics that didn't serve the city perfectly. We're trying to take some of the politics out. So the question becomes, can we entertain a motion that we eliminate the city clerk's position as an elected position? Would we entertain that at this juncture?
Sure.
Can I just make one?
Diane?
You know, other high-level positions, like the Director of Finance, the Director of Public Works, are appointed by the mayor and approved by the council, and those are sort of like depoliticized because of that. So maybe if we went in that direction with this position, it would depoliticize that whole role, because right now, the way it is, it really does create conflict.
Yeah, it's by its nature a political position,
Mhm.
whether we like it or not.
I thought that was the basis for us to make it non-elected. I mean, I thought that's what
That
our
is-
thinking was.
So, that's been our thinking.
Okay, let's do
Does someone want to make a motion?
Mary does.
Go ahead, Mayor.
I make a motion that we amend the charter
Mhm.
so that the position of whatever we're gonna call it, legislative clerk.
Legislators,
No,
straight.
Could we
How
not
do we,
use
I don't know how
clerk?
to say that.
Yeah.
What do we call
Legislative
it?
associate, legislative assistant.
The person who works for the
Former
common
city
council,
clerk, former city clerk, now whatever.
Legislative person.
legislative clerk,
We now have to get rid of the
no
word
longer
clerk.
be an elected position.
Say
Sorry,
associate.
that was poorly worded.
Legislative associate.
Poorly worded motion.
We're all gonna vote something.
How about associate?
Well,
Well, the motion you want is to
Well-
make it not an elected position.
Well, that's the simplest part, and we can do that. Or do you want to make the mayor's proposal as your motion, and we will then discuss that and vote on that, either up or down, in which case, you're really doing two things. You're changing section 2-2 and 3-3. And in your mind, you were changing the word appointment may be approved to must be approved by a vote, then either 2/3 or majority.
If we're gonna do that, I would suggest that we consider eliminating this.
Okay, let's get one motion on the table. Or, well, you want to keep free-ranging?
What's your motion?
Too confused now.
Okay,
Can we just do the first one?
okay. We have no motions at this time. We have a consensus that we want to eliminate the elected position of city clerk.
That's my motion.
Okay.
Eliminate
Why
the
don't we
position
just
of
vote
city
on
clerk.
Okay, a motion's been made that we eliminate the elective position of city clerk. Is there a second?
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
Oh, I wanted it.
Any more discussion? Any more discussion on the elected position of city clerk? Try your minds. All in favor of eliminating the elected position of city clerk, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
It's unanimous.
That's a unanimous vote. Now, the question becomes, what do we replace that position with? Before you, we have three proposals. One is the mayor's proposal, in which he calls it a legislative clerk position. The mayor would appoint that position. However, that appointment, using Mary Comstock's phrase, must be approved by a vote of 2/3 of the membership of the council.
Mhm. I like that.
So I make that motion now.
If you would like to make that motion.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the mayor's proposal that we received on August 25th with the changes previously cited.
Okay. And the changes are, we've left it, so far the term is legislative clerk. We can talk about that name if we need to. We've changed it so that the appointment must be approved by a vote of 2/3 of the entire membership of the common council. Language is still in there that says the council may at any time appoint an assistant clerk or clerks who shall, in the absence or disability of the clerk, perform all the duties of the clerk and all records. So that language is still in there. So a motion's been made that we change that, the mayor's proposal. Is there a second?
Is there, just a question,
Mm-hmm.
can we change other language in this if we accept it?
Yes, we would have to amend we would have to amend it, but yes, but we need a second before we really can discuss it.
I will second it.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded that we accept the mayor's language with the changes that appointments must be approved by 2/3 vote of the entire council. Discussion on that. Bob, I think you have a change that you would like to make to that?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I think the issue becomes when we have a department having two people essentially performing the same job, there is confusion. And I think confusion will exist unless we amend the last sentence of the mayor's proposal. And I would offer the suggestion that we remove that.
That we remove the wording, the council may at any time appoint an assistant clerk?
Right. Because we have duplication of effort.
So what you're saying is that the legislative clerk reports to the mayor and the
No, this clerk handles.
and the assistant clerk would,
There is no assistant clerk. The clerk is, the legislative associate, or whatever we choose to call, is responsible for the functions of that office. If there is another person required in there, that would be filled by the same process as the
Okay.
associate.
did you understand? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go
But
ahead, Mary.
if you take that, I mean, I'm reading that saying, well, you're putting somebody in there only in the absence of the person who fills the job?
Actually, not only in the absence. The council today could hire an assistant clerk if they wanted. That language is in the current charter. They just haven't done that at this point in time. So the council could hire an assistant clerk. Now, there is someone in that position currently,
A part-time.
well, or they work for the mayor that helps with the,
Mary Foley
okay,
serves, but she does not serve in the capacity of assistant clerk.
because the council's just not hired. She's a secretary in the mayor's
Civil
office?
service? No, she's in the city clerk's office.
Okay,
There are two offices over there. She occupies one of them,
okay.
but she's not an
Okay,
assistant.
did you guys hear that? That there is a secretary who is in the city clerk's office, who now does assistant city clerk work,
Yes. She's in,
but she's not hired by the council, so that language has not come into, the council has not hired that position. It's just a position that the mayor has filled.
Oh, so then it's a separate thing that we should be considering.
Yes.
Because this, if you just read this, it just simply says that the council can appoint someone whenever the legislative clerk is, it just saying they're absent. In other words, to perform the duties. It's almost like, you're out of work today, so they put somebody else in your job today. That's the way I read this. But you're saying then it's a separate position. Now you have to either consider as being part of this charter or take it out. That's what you're trying to say. I don't think it should be.
Yeah, Bob is saying Bob would be offering an amendment that would take that language out, which then takes away the council's ability to hire an assistant clerk.
It's no different than their ability to hire an attorney, no difference in their ability to hire a financial.
So you're saying they could just do it by ordinance?
No, they have, the person that has this job, this legislative associate, has a responsibility. And that responsibility is to the city of Danbury, using Mary's words. You know, she may have loyalty to people, but her responsibility is to the city of Danbury. She's hired as a professional, not as a clerk. She's not part of the merit system. And as in any other director here, it can be hired by the mayor and appointed, and with confirmation by common council.
Okay, Mayor Constance.
Would we give that person that job, that authority, to hire someone in her absence, or his absence? Change council to the legislative clerk?
6.3 says that
The mayor is
the
the only one.
appointments is the only,
Right,
yeah, here we go again.
Diane?
So he would
I
just
think this language was in here as a residue of when it was an elected position and we needed somebody as a standby. But if it's a hired position, you don't really need a standby, because if the person's unable to do their job, they'll be replaced.
I think this is
That's
the
a good point.
politicalization of the position. This is where
Okay.
part of our problem comes in.
All right, so Bob's offered an amendment that would eliminate the last sentence in there. Is there a second to Bob's motion?
So Bob's motion is an amendment to the motion
Yes.
previously made by
Yeah.
Bob and Mary. Okay.
keep me right on Robert's rules, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Okay, so Mary Cronin seconded the amendment that would be, so all in favor, well, discussion on that, where we would eliminate the last
It's 4 lines, 3.5 lines.
the last 3.5 lines. Any discussion on eliminating that?
I had discussion on the whole thing. I'm just gonna be the stick in the mud, I'm sorry.
You know what, we need a stick in the mud, so let's make sure, let's try to get this as close as we can.
We have a strong mayor form of government. I accept that. The mayor presides over the legislative body and runs the meeting. We're not touching any aspect of that. I don't see, I keep going back to this first proposal by the Common Council. Why wouldn't we, I mean, if you're going to ask the mayor to appoint and then ask the council for a 2/3 vote or even a majority vote, yes, you're forcing them to work together, but with minority representation on the council, I think we want a bipartisan approach to this position. Not so much a legislative, administrative, or executive. I don't see the need for those two to work together as much. They already work together. And we know they work together because the mayor presides over the council. If this is a legislative assistant position, a legislative staff, let the legislature pick them. We don't need the mayor appointing. I don't see any need for that. Why not just let them pick who they want? And the problem is, Mary's initial comment was, well, doesn't everyone who works for the city work for the mayor? Well, I guess so, but in this case, I think they're gonna answer to the Common Council and the Common Council president. I think there'd have to be bipartisan support to elect, or to hire whoever this person is. And I think that person is going to have to work with the president of the council, any interested council member, and the mayor, so that all of those 4 functions work for the benefit of the citizens. Because ultimately, that's the most important thing. All those 4 functions would come down to this one person. I don't see any need for forcing the executive branch and the legislative branch to work together in that. In this case, it's a legislative assistant. Let the legislative branch hire him. The mayor's gonna have as much force or no force, over that person as he would, and in any respect, we still have a strong form. I don't think we've disrupted any balance that exists now, except to the extent that eliminating it as an elected position, I think, is all in favor of the citizens of Danbury. So, to me, there's no need to force the executive and the legislature to work together, because I think with minority representation, the council's going to have to work together to hire the person that they believe will be able to work with everyone and bring these 4 functions together. So that's why you're right, we should force government to work for the people, but in this case, I think it's being done with proposal number 1.
The council doesn't have any staff person.
I'm sorry, proposal number 1 being the proposal received in the mail?
Yes.
Sorry, proposal number 1 that from the,
Yeah.
it's undated. But it came from the Democratic caucus, I think, the
Yeah.
Common Council.
The council doesn't have any full-time staff, so there's no, in effect, there'd be no oversight, there'd be no review process. That would all be different because council members are all volunteers. There's nobody here all the time, and the mayor would argue that he works more closely with this legislative assistant than anybody.
It would have to add some guidance and process. I would imagine the council trying to get
Yeah.
the process done.
Okay,
Get
so
somebody on board.
we have an amendment on the floor, which is to take the mayor's proposal and eliminate that last sentence in that proposal.
Well, and also eliminate and change the wording that he submitted to us.
You have 2 amendments to it.
Well, we've got to do the first amendment, which is eliminate that sentence. So, any other discussion on eliminating the assistant clerk piece? Hearing none, I will try your minds. All in favor of eliminating the last sentence, please signify by raising your hands. Cronin, Comstock.
This is just voting to eliminate.
This is only
3.5.
eliminating the last sentence.
Okay, so we're not accepting.
We're not accepting anything yet,
Okay.
okay? So
Which one are
again,
we eliminating?
we're eliminating the words, "The council may at any time appoint an assistant clerk or clerks who shall, in the absence or disability of the clerk, perform all the duties of the clerk, and all records and acts of said assistant shall have the same validity as the records and acts of the clerk." Okay, so that's an amendment, so that then Mary's proposal would be that we accept this language without that.
Hold on, so in favor of the amendment,
Yeah, well, we didn't do it yet. So again, please raise your hand so that we can see them. Okay, Cronin, Comstock, Cervello, King, Mead, and Buzade. Opposed? Mr. Swenson. Okay. Now there's a motion on the floor that is termed legislative clerk, and I'm not going to read it, other than to tell you that in the third line, that the appointment must be approved, those are the two words that are changed, by a vote of 2/3 of the entire membership of the council. So, first question. We need discussion on that, and understand that the last sentence has been eliminated per Mr. King's amendment. In addition, we would be adding the section at the bottom where it talks where we're changing the city clerk phrases and things. Any discussion around that issue? Currently in that proposal, the term would be legislative clerk. Do you want to leave it as legislative clerk? Or do you want to change that to?
I would change it.
Associate or assistant?
Yeah, we were trying to get rid of clerk.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
it's,
Are there any titles associates in the city hall? I'm trying to distinguish it from director or,
Yeah. I think there might be an associate planning director, something like that.
so associate
This-
is,
The legislative assistant was the term used in proposal 1.
I like legislative assistant.
yeah,
Okay.
it's easier to think of.
I think the assistant, because it might get, well, I guess we deleted that sentence, but if we had left that sentence in, then you wouldn't have known what assistant you were talking about,
Right.
so.
Right. So Mary, would you allow us to amend your proposal to make it a legislative assistant?
Yes.
Okay. Then, so cleaning up the words are easy. We would then call it a legislative assistant. The question is, how do we feel then about having the mayor appoint that position and require legislative approval with 2/3 vote? That is now the motion on the floor. Mayoral appointment, cleaned up the terms, 2/3 approval.
I think,
Could we-
I think Mary's words were, after that after that appointment must be approved.
Must be approved by a vote.
Must be approved, right?
Yes, must be approved. So we change the word may to must and disapproved to approved by a vote of 2/3.
Mhm.
Any other discussion on that?
I just have a question on that. Everything else that we look at with hiring has 2/3 disapproval. Does this make any difference if we change the wording around?
Yes.
changes the politics of it.
Right.
It's given the council
Mhm.
more sway, I think, Mary, is what you were trying to do.
Well, is your question meaning we have to go back and change
Meaning-
it for everything?
No.
My question was, does it have any implications other than
This particular,
the fact that we're requiring 2/3 of the council to approve? But the way we have everything else set up in here, it's a 2/3 vote to disapprove. Doesn't matter.
Oh, it certainly does matter.
No, I mean, in this case, we can still say it this way.
We can do it, in effect, can this position be treated differently than other positions in the charter?
Certainly.
And, yeah, clearly
Okay.
it can be. Okay, now, what'll happen, assuming that this passes, Mr. Gottschalk will then go back, kind of re-wordsmith it. This will come before us again with cleaned-up language, so that we will have another chance to take a look at this. It will be at Diane's last meeting. Okay. Any other discussion regarding this?
Well, yeah.
Peter?
Two-thirds is kind of a high number. I mean, we all understand that, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I am concerned,
14
what
members of
happens
21 member
if they
board.
just can't agree on someone? The position is left open and all of our records and minutes and things aren't taken care of? I guess,
Then they're not doing any business, or are they?
Well, then that will
Yeah.
come up at the next election. Why can't the two of you get together and put someone in that job?
okay. Paul, you look unhappy, do you want to say something?
No, I just,
Okay. Any other discussion or points anyone would like to make?
The problem I have with proposal one, you know, I agree that, that it has some merit, but there's some language in there that I, may employ staff and other expert or professional consultants, so it seems to be going above and beyond, you know, what we're trying to cover in this section, and that's really my problem with proposal one.
well, how about if we just amend the mayor's proposal?
To, what would,
On or after 12 noon, the first minute. Oh. I would just leave it so that the mayor doesn't appoint, the common council just votes.
well, but who would they be voting on?
That's the part of the process I would be a little leery about.
You want the mayor to appoint.
It was, I can
Almost a-
imagine the council trying to decide on who they want to appoint. If you have 21 people in there, where do they get 21 people they want to put up as a legislative clerk? You know how long that's going to take? It'll be 3 years, nothing.
So what you're saying,
I'm just, and that's, I'm just, you know.
you're using the mayor's office then to merely
Be the one-
propose candidates?
Well, not just merely, no.
Well, and I don't mean to
Yeah.
minimize.
But at least it cuts the waiting time down, and it cuts the search down. They have some people that they can now look at and say, okay, well, yeah, no, that's definitely not. And if they're not good people or in their eyes, the mayor goes back to the drawing board, or whoever the mayor is, and come back with some other people. I don't think that will take as long as having 21 people trying to, I mean, I could just see 21 people bringing 21 candidates in to appoint, and I just think the process is, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's just too time consuming at that point. When you got a city to run, you got, the council's very, very powerful. That's what does our business. You know, I just don't see that as practical.
Mary Comstock.
I'd also like to say that if you're gonna take this position out of the hands of the electors, then the electors are gonna wanna know that at least two bodies came to a resolution so that they can trust that the right person's gonna get that job.
Any other discussion?
You know, to Mary's point, I think you could modify the responsibilities to imply in there that they have a responsibility toward this position, has a responsibility toward the mayor and to the common council. And that may, you know, answer that problem.
Could be brilliant, it could kill us. So, any other discussion? I will, there's a motion on the floor. Any other questions, discussion points?
I thought there was an amendment on the floor.
No, it's now it's now in the form of a motion that we rename the position a legislative assistant, and that the wording is as the mayor proposed it, with the changes being that the appointment must be approved by a vote of 2/3 of the entire membership of the common council. And if you look at the piece in front of you, the very last sentence, that the council may at any time appoint, that has been eliminated by Mr. King's amendment. I'll take a vote. All in favor of approving this, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. You know, I was hoping we'd be out of here before Mr. Gottschalk got here at 8 o'clock tonight, so.
That was wishful thinking.
All right, this will be back in front of us, just to make sure we've got the language cleaned up at the next meeting, which is slated to be hopefully our last. Okay, well, thank you guys, that was a little tedious, but hopefully we got our way through it. Okay, the commission will discuss changes to the department titles for personnel, health, and welfare. Mr. Gottschalk,
Yes, sir.
do you have a handout?
I don't have a handout for personnel and
Okay,
welfare. There was a conversation about it,
okay.
and I believe I have
We
I have
have,
some notes with respect to that. I have handouts on other issues.
okay, well,
Not on that one.
well, let's do this one very quickly, department titles. Mr. King, do you have the mayor's
Yes.
letter? Would
To
you?
summarize it, the two departments that he talked about was to revise rename, if you will, the personnel department, one, rename it to the Department of Human Resources. This reflects the current responsibilities and is a more modern terminology and fitting with their job responsibilities, the mayor felt. So that would be one. The other, and this is all contained, by the way, in his letter of December the 3rd, and in a recent meeting with the mayor, he reiterated these are the two that he had in mind. The other one was the Health, Housing Department and Welfare Department, to rename it to the Health and Human Services Department. There was a third, which is the Public Parks, which I do believe, Mr. Chairman, we need further definition from the mayor.
Okay.
Because I believe that he plans to combine two departments. And there will be other wording changes in the charter that would be necessitated by this. So I think we have to come back to that third one at a later date.
All right, can we have a motion then to rename the Personnel Department to the Department of Human Resources and rename the Health and Housing Department and the Welfare Department to the Health and Human Services Department? Fairly simple changes to the charter.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. King, seconded by Dr. Cronin. Okay, everyone clear on what we're doing? Simply renaming. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, unanimous. Do you have that?
I do. Can you repeat the?
Yes. Personnel Department
Yes.
is being renamed Department of Human Resources. The Health and Housing Department and the Welfare Department are being renamed Health and Human Services Department. And I think that's just kind of updating them to where they are currently.
Rick, you can see that in the mayor's letter of
Yes.
December
Yes.
the 3rd.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, then the commission will review and discuss revisions to Charter Section 6, 7, and 613 regarding the duties of the Public Works Department and the Park Department.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we table that for this evening and put it on the next agenda, because as stated, we need further clarification from the mayor as to what his intent is.
Did Mr. Gottschalk have anything on
I
this?
have handouts with respect to those, and perhaps you could use them just as a starting place
Okay.
to be discussed next time. And I also, by the way, have, excuse me, a handout that reflects the changes you made last time to 6-9, so you can put them in your books.
Okay.
So let me just give you those.
6, 9.
If I misunderstood my assignment, I apologize for that too, but I thought you had asked me in an email to prepare revisions to 6, 7,
I
and
did.
613.
I did.
So I have those. First one is 6-9. This is the change you made last time to police department language.
There was a question about that.
Can we bring those up at the time, Carl? Oh, I'm sorry.
You forgot to take yours. I have that written down.
Appreciate your patience.
What do you mean?
Why don't we, if you're referring to questions, why don't we add that to the agenda?
Okay.
And when, since Rick is here, and then we can go through those.
Okay.
And that way, if the chair wants, we can ask the
Got it.
councilman to come back.
Okay. We have some questions for you that were raised in public session, but we'll do that at the end.
Okay.
Because it's regarding a few different things.
Okay.
Okay, and then 617 and 613?
6-7 is the Department of Public Works.
Yes.
Here's a handout. And it is intended to reflect,
I'll take yours and notes.
I love these one-pagers.
try to keep everything on one page.
Thank
It's intended to reflect the proposals already in place as made by the mayor and the director of the Department of Public Works. It shifts responsibility essentially for maintenance of playgrounds and ball fields and other areas used for recreation, the maintenance of that from Parks and Recreation to Public Works. And it also deletes one charter position within Public Works. There used to be a superintendent of equipment maintenance. That position hasn't been filled in a long time, and a new position was added, and in one of the mayor's letters to you, he proposed the creation of a position that's already in place called the superintendent of construction.
Then he would eliminate that whole section about the superintendent of maintenance, because if you try to substitute the title for that, it just doesn't make any sense.
Correct.
Right.
Yes, as you'll read in the last paragraph
Okay.
there.
Okay, so you'll want to review this in your charter. I guess my only, any questions off the tops of your heads regarding any of
I got
this?
this
We're
one
almost
here.
done. We're
Yeah,
getting
so
the
this
last thing
this is
that we'll-
all new.
Okay, great, okay, thanks.
The last item I have for you is the flip side of this consolidation, this reorganization of functions between Public Works and Parks and Recreation. And it deals with Parks and Rec. And the significant change there is a recognition of the fact that what Parks and Rec now does is programmatical. Is that a word? Oh, good. Yeah, and so he develops programs, but he doesn't maintain the fields. That's done by Public Works. So we eliminate maintenance, and we add a reference to the creation of recreational programs. And finally, I understand from an interview that I had with the director that he's now being called the Director of Recreation, not the Director of Parks and Recreation. That's the job title. It's kept on file in the Human Resources Department, as we're going to call it
New
now.
Human Resources
Yeah,
Department.
and so that's reflected in sub A. All right? That's where,
He didn't combine these two departments. did
no,
he?
no.
Okay, because in his letter, he talked about combining, and one question I was
Separate
posed to
you
you. Can he do that, and isn't that in violation of a charter if they're set up as two different departments in the charter?
Correct.
And he didn't do that.
No, he did not.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Gottschalk regarding this? The
No,
chair-
that'll do it.
The chair has one question. Why do we keep these in the charter? Why wouldn't we just eliminate them from the charter so that the council could simply, by ordinance, change all this stuff? And, because clearly, positions are changing as the city's evolving and growing. Why are the charter positions, and we can approve this and it fixes it for the time being, but 2 years from now, they may reorganize and then the charter's out of sync again. Is there a reason to keep it in the charter? Or the fact is, we've got a charter, so we keep it in there?
I think of the charter as you might see a tree in fall. It's the skeleton. It doesn't have any leaves on it. You know, should it have this branch or that branch? You know, you still have a tree if you lop off a branch. And I think I'm going to stop with this analogy right now.
You sound like a, you sound-
And I apologize for it.
you sound like a photographer.
Oh,
but-
or a poet. But I don't need to be that.
Good try.
Oh, bad poet. Could we get along with that? If you decide you're going to eliminate the Department of Parks and Recreation, that doesn't mean that the function disappears.
Right.
You know, the mayor is going to assign somebody to go do that. Why do we need a charter at all? I mean, you know.
So you can have a
You know,
charter
I mean,
revision
is that where we
commission.
want to go?
So you can have a charter revision commission.
You guys
Can I make a suggestion? I think that we should have all the departments listed, but not
Right.
necessarily the qualifications for the department heads.
Right.
That's really more
Yeah.
job
Part of the
description.
job.
Yeah, I think that if you made a very bare bones charter that was 4 or 5 pages long, that there, the tools are in place to fill that in and you know, people would be appointed and the business of the city of Danbury and government would go on, yes.
Okay, so you feel the charter should be a tree in winter and
Oh,
let the
geez.
council
Now
turn
you're
it into spring?
Okay, you two.
I'll nobody's watching.
Okay, last item on the agenda, thank you, Dr. Cronin, for putting up with us. Last item on the agenda, the commission will discuss the requirements for the initiation of a referendum by the public.
Yes.
This is the final agenda item with a couple of questions for Rick that were raised in public session.
Well, we can vote to add an item, I guess, if we have to.
Yes.
To the charter, to come after.
But we've been addressed by many people about this. How do people feel about referendum? Current requirement is, can someone tell me?
15%.
15%.
Approximately 30,000 electorates, which means 4,500 signatures in a 30-day period, I believe it is, or
Okay.
45-day.
What section of the charter is that?
It's in there somewhere. Can you help me, Paul?
It's in there somewhere, yes.
311,
311, okay.
and it is 30 days.
Yes. Now, if you look at the registration over time, you go back 10 years, I think it has increased about 5,000 voters, but recognize that the registrar's office had purged the voting list and dropped off about 2,500 to 3,000, I think was the number. So in effect, we've had an increase in active voting list of about, I want to say 8,000. 4,500 seems like a formidable amount to go out and get in 30 days, but I would not want to reduce this to a figure that allows that everything that the legislative branch decides on, that somebody wants to run and put a referendum in it. Surrounding towns have a problem with that, and it can be disruptive from government. But I'll go back to our preamble where we stated we want citizens to participate in the decision of the government. Therefore, I think that we ought to keep a high number, but I believe 15% is too high. Perhaps 10% might be something we want to consider. Personally, I would find it difficult to go below 10% and vote for that.
Any other? Yeah.
What was the problem with, I think it was Mr. Rotello told us that we couldn't go beyond the 30 days? That if we went beyond the 30 days, it was a moot point?
Is that a state statute?
Is that Mr.
There is state
Rotello?
law on the subject, yes.
Yes.
So the
On
30
any
days
ordinance
has to stand?
or budget? Because I understand budget, there's time issues, but let's say they pass a noise ordinance or open alcohol on the beach ordinance, and the citizens want to petition that. State law is 30 days, or could we grant a longer?
State law is 30 days, but that doesn't mean that the charter can't change that.
Okay,
The charter recited state law.
okay.
So we
Could.
could keep the number. and
We
give
could
them
keep the number
90 days.
and give more time, we could change the number and,
But if I may address that, if we extend the time, we could be delaying critical legislation by doing that, and I don't know that we'd want to do that. I think it might be easier simply to reduce the number of signatures.
let's go, could we just review the process? If they pass a law and people don't like the law, because we're not talking budgets, it seems like everyone feels that there's like a poison pill in our budgeting process, that that's disapproved, the mayor's budget's approved. So let's say it's just for an ordinance. If
But the
council,
budget is an ordinance.
well, I understand the budget is, but let's say it's for something other than budget.
Okay.
If the council passes it and the mayor signs it, it's then law. If someone says we're going to referendum against it, is it still law until the referendum has enough votes? Could you tell us the step-by-step on how laws become laws and what the referendum process, does a referendum suspend a law until it's resolved?
Isn't that in fact a waiting period?
It says it shall
See,
not become
it ties
effective
into
until.
310. If you take a look at 310, what it says is that your ordinances become effective upon adoption by the common council, approval by the mayor, publication, and then a period of 30 days. The council can specify a longer period, but generally speaking, ordinances are effective 30 days after publication. If within that 30-day window, there's a petition for referendum, then the ordinance doesn't become effective until the result of the referendum is known.
So the 30 days doesn't begin, that period, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying there's that 30-day window between publication and day 31,
Okay.
during which you can submit your petition calling for a vote by the people on this ordinance.
What if on day 29, they said, okay, we are going to start a petition, do they get 30 days from that date?
No.
No, it's 30
So
days
the law,
from-
so the law would go into effect,
Right.
and then they could then still petition to change.
No, the law doesn't go into effect.
Yeah, that's.
If the petition is received by the town clerk within that 30-day period.
But if the petition is not received, the law goes into effect on day 31, and then if people want to petition, is it too late?
Too late.
Too late.
Done.
Oh, so either we've got to delay laws going into effect to give people more time,
Right.
or lower the number.
Yep.
So-
Mr.
Or leave it
Chairman,
alone.
one of the other things that we consider if we change the time is that bonding could be subject to referendum. And delaying a bonding could have an undesired effect in terms of, interest paid and so on and so forth. So I think we should be careful with the timing as we go there. I think
Well-
if you want to fix this, I think the easier fix would be to reduce the number of signatures.
But then, what's happening is you're allowing a few people
To run the city.
to run the city.
Not really.
I think when this whole thing was set up, it was set up at 15%, so that there had to be a broad consensus among the people in the town that this was not the way they wanted to go. Now, if you drop it and keep dropping it lower, then why should the majority of the town be held hostage by, less than 10% of the people?
Well, we don't know if it's 10%.
Well, if we talk about dropping the
All as
percentage.
a referendum does is it insists that the public vote on it. So it still could be defeated in a vote.
Right, but you have a few people in that case.
Right.
Instead of, 15% means that
4,500
there is a number of people who are unhappy with the situation. If you keep dropping that amount to less than 15%, say you drop it to 10%,
That's 3,000.
that's a substantial number of people.
If we look back 10 years ago when we had 15%, that was about 3,700 signatures
Uh-huh.
required. Now we're saying it's
But the
3,000.
population was much smaller, so.
True.
I think what people have been saying is that it's very difficult to take anything to referendum. There simply isn't enough time to get 4,500 signatures.
Unless you have a lot of people working on it.
Yeah.
And if you have a lot of people working on it, that means that there are a lot of people who are unhappy with it. And then you can get your percentage.
So it's really a safety valve if